That first one, what we're going to talk about is fire, food, and shelter. You need some fire, you need some food, right? I'm going to get some hot dogs. Guys, make sure to grab a hot dog on your way out. And shelter. These are the three elements that if you want to survive, if you're going camping, you're going to need these three things if you want to enjoy any minute of your camping experience. You want to have some fire, you're going to have some food, right? Keep those bellies full. And you're going to want to have some shelter. So we're going to look at how these three, fire, food, and shelter, apply to our lives spiritually. Well, continuing in 2 Timothy chapter 1, jumping down to verse 6, Paul writes this. He says, "For this reason, I remind you to fan into flame the gift of God, which is in you through the laying on of my hands." He says, fan into flame. Fan into flame the gift of God. So, have you ever made a fire before? Anybody like make a fire? There's just something about making a fire, and there's a couple different ways that you can do it. You can kind of do the teepee and get some kindling and put it all up, or you can make a house and kind of put two and two and put the paper in the middle and some smaller kindling. But man, there's just something very rewarding about building a big, and obviously, right, guys, the bigger the fire, the better, right? Bigger is always better. Now I have to say, a little ashamed of this. I probably haven't built a fire in years because I switched over. Guys, don't judge me, all right? Please. I switched over to gas, all right? So I have a propane tank, and I have a gas propane fire tank on my back patio, and it's just so much easier and quicker. Like, you just go in, you turn it on, and you sit, enjoy the fire. When you're done, it's off, and you can go in and not wonder if your house is going to burn down. Like, did I really get the whole fire out, or am I going to wake up in flames in the middle of the night? Like, it's really easy. So I haven't built a fire in a while, but there's just something soothing, something calming about sitting there watching the flames dance at night, and just, man, there's just something so rewarding, but very calming at the same time. But Paul, he tells Timothy, hey, fan into flame. So one of the things that you need, if you're going to have a successful fire, if you're building a fire and you're not kind of taking the cheap, easy way like I do, is you need some oxygen, right? When you're building a fire, you're kind of getting down, and you start with a little flame, you're blowing, and you're like, you maybe have like a fan, because the fire, for it to grow, it needs some oxygen. And one of the first things you do, right, if you're the opposite, you're in the kitchen and there's a fire, right, you're indoors, there's flames where you don't want them to be, what do? You smother them, right? You take the oxygen away. So Paul, he's reminding Timothy, hey, fan into flame the gift of God that's on the inside of you. Fan into flame that relationship. Don't let the fire go out, Paul's encouraging Timothy. So how do you do that? How do you fan into flame the gift of God it's on the inside of you? Well, one, there's many ways to do this. I'm going to just hit three real quick. But one of the ways is you're doing it today, is attend church. One of the ways that you fan into flame the gift that God has given you is to attend church regularly. Because there's something about being with the people of God, being surrounded by the people of God, rubbing shoulders, being with people who have the same goals, have the same mission, who live the same, who are trying to walk in the plans and purposes. Nobody's perfect. We're all imperfect people trying our best, right, to live the way God has called us to live. Man, worshiping corporately together, hearing a message, what God has for you, how to live, how can I make some changes. Susie talked about transfer. How can I transform my life just a little bit this week so I can walk a little bit closer, so my life can resemble just a little bit more this week as it is to Jesus than I was last week. And when you attend church together and you're here with the people of God and you're worshiping and you're receiving from God's word, there's something happens on the inside and it grows a depth. And what you're doing is you're fanning into flame the gift of God that's on the inside of you. So attend church regularly. Have a devotional life. Don't depend on Sunday morning for the food that you eat spiritually. Don't depend just on a Sunday service for what you're going to consume spiritually, because that is a recipe for disaster, I'll be honest. It's part of it, but it can't be the only thing. So you need to have a good devotional life. You want to fan to flame the gift of God? Have your own personal devotional time throughout the week. Have a time set aside that's just for you. I like doing it in the morning because, man, it's so much easier. I feel like my day is just kind of sets the tone for my day. Just like I tithe the top 10%, it like sets the tone for how I spend the rest of my money. When I get up early in the morning, it sets the tone for how I live the rest of my day. And I get in the Word, I'm praying, I'm spending time with the Lord first thing in the morning. It doesn't have to be first thing. That's just what works for me. But set aside some time in your day for a devotional time. And what you're doing is when you're reading God's Word, you're fanning into flame the gift that God has given you. Then, and I mentioned this last week, as I came to a time about 21 years ago, where I rededicated my life to the Lord, but I felt like I was hitting like this almost spiritual glass ceiling where I just felt like it wasn't growing anymore. And there was a season where God was kind of stripping things away, sin that I'd allowed in my life, bad habits that I had picked up for the past few years, and God was stripping those away. He was kind of, going through this process of transforming me. But then I came to a time where it was like, it didn't matter what I did, almost, I just really wasn't growing that much. I felt like I was hitting this spiritual ceiling. I felt God whisper to me, say, okay, there was a season where you sat and you received, and you needed it. But now, I need you to get up and do something. Now I want you to start serving. Yes, there was something that I wanted to do in your life, but now I want to do something through your life. And now you need to start serving. And when the moment that I started serving, and I started serving on teams in the church that I was a part of, it was like the floodgates opened up. God just kind of propelled my spiritual life. You want to fan into flame the gift of God on the inside? Start serving people. Join a serve team. These three things will help you fan into flame the gift that God has given you. Attend church regularly, have a devotional life, and serve people. So, number one, fire. You want to survive in the wild, survive camping, you need some fire.